Welcome back, Year 5 and 6. Today I'll be reading the next chapter of our class read, The Nowhere Emporium. Today's guided reading questions will be based around this chapter today, so sit back, listen carefully and enjoy. Chapter 12, Friction. Edinburgh, August 1885. The dagger spun through the darkened theatre in perfect circular motions, blade glinting in the stage lights. Across the stage, Vindictus Sharp's apprentice was suspended several feet in the air, fastened securely to a sparkling circular board. The audience gasped as the blade plunged deep into the board, only a few inches from his left eye, though the young man himself did not so much as blink. As the crowd applauded, Vindictus Sharp, widely regarded as the world's finest magician, held up his hand for quiet. Blindfold tied tight over his eyes, he reached down to the table by his side, his fingers touching upon the handle of another dagger. Silence. Sharp raised the dagger to his shoulder, sent it ripping through the air with a flick of the wrist. Again the apprentice remained calm. His thunder-grey eyes watched the blade with great concentration as it flew towards him. This time the dagger stabbed deep into the board above his head, so close that a few of his wild dark hairs were now half an inch shorter. The audience seemed to breathe as one. Some of them could not bear to look as Sharp reached for the last remaining dagger, preparing to launch it with his weaker left hand. Another flick of the wrist, and the dagger was a blur in the frozen silence. Someone in the audience screamed as the apprentice caught the blade between his teeth. For an agonizing moment, nothing happened. Then the apprentice tilted his head back and spat the dagger high into the air. As it soared upwards, the blade shattered into many pieces, each blossoming and shifting and blurring until there were 24 red admiral butterflies fluttering above the stage. The audience roared. They stood in the aisles. They whistled and cheered. Sharp freed his assistant from his bindings. The young man took a quick bow and slipped through the stage curtain. He swept through the darkened area backstage, down a set of wooden steps, and into the relative calm of the dressing room he shared with Sharp. He sat in a wicker chair and removed his necktie, observing his reflection in the mirrored dresser. Even down here, in the bowels of the theatre, the roar of the crowd was still audible. He could picture Sharp strutting around the stage like a gigantic peacock, soaking up the applause he craved so much. A knock on the door. Who is it? Birdie. A smile flashed across the young man's face. He darted up from the chair, grabbing a bunch of drooping white roses from a glass vase on the dresser. He waved a hand over the flowers. Clouds of colour instantly flooded the petals, billowing like ink through water. In a moment he was holding what might have been a freshly picked bunch of roses, save for the fact that they were in shades that did not exist, deep blues and silver greys. Come in. When Birdie entered, wearing a flowing gown of black and gold, he rushed to her, planting a kiss on her hand, pushing the flowers into her arms. You've learned some manners, she said, her wrinkled mouth curling upwards at the corners. You must be after something. He offered her a drink, which she gladly accepted, and they sat on a comfortable couch. It seems we are a hit, she indicated the general direction of the stage. Edinburgh lapped it up, every moment of it. The young man made no reply. He scratched the tip of his nose. Birdie frowned. What is on your mind, boy? I'm not sure I should say. I must remember my place. You were having doubts about our project? Birdie said. For a long moment he did not answer. Then he took a deep breath. Not doubts exactly, more like I'm struggling to understand the point of what we're doing. Every night I stand on the stage and I watch the faces in the crowd, knowing that they believe our show to be nothing but trickery and misdirection. They think we're fakes. Birdie contemplated this. And what would you like to do instead? She said, her voice calm and warm. Tell them magic is real? Of course not. I just want, I don't know, something bigger. I want to change the way they see the world. Birdie frowned at him, but she could not hide the twinkle in her eyes. And what exactly might this something bigger be? The apprentice hesitated, and then reached into the silk-lined pocket, bringing out a black leather book similar in size to a diary. "I have ideas," he said, waving the book in the air. "Would you look at them for me, Birdie? I don't expect any promises, but perhaps if you like some of my concepts, you could talk to him. He'll listen to you." He stopped. Vindictus Sharp stood in the doorway like a great bear, his blue eyes blazing. He waved his hand, and the black book broke free of the young man's grip, zipping across the room into his waiting palm. The apprentice cringed as his mentor thumbed through several of the pages. "You have spent a great deal of time on these ideas, haven't you?" The apprentice felt a little hope rise in his chest. He nodded. "Yes, sir." "And you believe you have the skill to pull these off successfully?" Another nod. Sharp began to laugh, but it was not laughter of good humour or affection. It was a laugh designed to hurt. "Then you are deluded," he said, and he tossed the book to the floor. "Vindictus, is that necessary?" said Birdie. "I will not tolerate the arrogance of a teenager with ideas above his station," spat Sharp. He strode to the dressing table and poured himself a large drink, downing it in one. Then he opened his arms, motioning around the room. "You think that you are better than this?" "No, sir," said the apprentice. "Of course not. I don't wish to seem ungrateful." "Then keep your mouth shut. Focus your energy on the skills I am trying to teach you. Skills that are making you a wealthy young man, if I'm not mistaken." "But—" Sharp threw his glass with such force that his apprentice barely had time to react. The young man shot up a hand at the last second, and the glass changed direction, bending around his head, shattering against the wall. "Enough of this," said Birdie. She did not raise her voice, but the severity of her tone was enough to capture even Sharp's attention. He turned away and sat at the dresser, filling another glass. Birdie placed a hand on the apprentice's shoulder. "I think it's best if you go ahead to the hotel and give Vindictus a little time to cool off. He was under great pressure this evening. Opening night in Edinburgh can crack even the hardest egg, yes?" The young man managed a half smile. "As you say. I shall see you here tomorrow. Good night." He kissed Birdie on the cheek and exited without another glance at Sharp. He was so flustered that he did not remember to pick up his book from the floor. When she was sure the boy had gone, Birdie retrieved the book and sat on the comfortable couch, flipping through the pages. "Don't chase him away," she said without looking up. "He is not like anyone else. You can take almost any urchin from the streets and teach him how to turn a rag into a pretty scarf, but talent like his is rare, as you've insisted on telling me over the years. His ideas are exceptional." Sharp glared at her in the mirror. "He is not as talented as he believes. He needs a lot of work. He must be reminded of this now and again." "How? By almost killing him with a glass to the head?" "I can see what's really going on, Vindictus. You are intimidated by the boy's abilities. You see him as a threat to your crown." Sharp did not respond, choosing instead to fill his glass for a third time. Birdie stood up and leaned heavily on her cane as she limped to the door. "Good night, Vindictus. I hope to find you in better spirits tomorrow. A word of warning. The boy is too talented to waste. If you cannot work with him, then I will find someone who can." She left without saying another word and was escorted through the plush red carpeted corridors of the theatre into a waiting carriage. As the horses carried her off through the warm Edinburgh night, Birdie turned the book over in her old hands, reading and rereading the inscription on the cover. The Wonders of Lucian Silver. And that's it for chapter 12 today. Remember that all of your guided reading questions today will be based around this chapter. Bye for now, year 5 and 6.